Welcome, Jillian, to the Dating Intentionally podcast. I'm so happy that you're here right now.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so before we jump into all the questions I have for you, my first question is, what are you being intentional about lately?
Rest,
Okay.
getting ample sleep,
Why is that your intention right now?
because nothing works unless you are well rested, is what I realized. That's like the one place you really cannot sacrifice is your sleep.
Yeah, I was going to say it's so unsexy, but it's so true.
It's so true.
Love it. Love it. I feel like always same, but like I've been powering through a lot of things and it's like maybe I should take a page out of your book on that one. Um, so speaking of your book, I have it here. It begins with you. 9 hard truths about love that will change your life. Everyone should get it. I will link it in the show notes. It is awesome. Whether you're in a relationship, dating, doesn't matter. I think this work is so important. And I want to say the first line of your book, like my jaw was on the floor. And I've followed you for years and I did not know how your story started. So can you share a little bit about how this work started for you?
Yeah, I mean, I had been a yoga teacher for many years, and I had met the man who was going to become my husband and then later my ex-husband. And we were only married for 2 years, and it was a difficult marriage. And on June 2nd, 2014, on the morning that I was having a miscarriage, he decided that he wasn't going to come home that day. And he told me that over text. And at the same time, my mom had terminal cancer and was just recently given just a few months to live. So all of that happened basically in one day. That was the day that my world, that my life completely fell apart. It was a catastrophe of epic proportions, something that I had not experienced before. I always say that was like the day that I died and like was reborn at the same time, because it was immediately like I was plucked out of my path and put onto a different path.
That is absolutely wild, just how that all happened in the same day. And just that time must have been absolutely crazy for you. One thing that struck me about your story is like you took that moment, which is what would you call it, like a rock bottom moment? Like, how do you
Oh
describe it?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But a rock bottom of like epic proportions, like
Yeah.
dark night of the soul. Yeah.
So you took that moment and instead of just sitting in it, it sounds like you turned that into like, I want to figure out relationships.
Hmm.
Like that's what it sounded like. That's the impression I got. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yeah, you got the right impression.
Yeah.
So during that time I became obsessed with two things. One is, how am I going to survive this? Like, how am I actually going to get myself out of this dark hole? And then what makes a relationship work? Because I was absolutely devastated by the fact that my marriage was ending and that I was in this position. And it was just incredibly, yeah, it was just incredibly devastating. And yeah, I became obsessed with that question.
Yeah.
And I've been obsessed to this ever since.
I relate to that part because I also had a relationship fall apart with someone I thought I was going to marry. We were together for 6 years and I broke
Mm,
up with him the day he started talking about rings. And I was like, no, 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 we can't do that.
well,
And my parents' divorce really affected me. I was in high school, so I pretty much understood everything that was going on.
yeah.
But my question for you is like, why do you think some people really lean into that? And it's like when something happens and something breaks like that, they really lean into figuring out relationships. And some people are like, I never want to be in love again.
Yeah, I think there was a combination of both for me. Well, it depends who you are. I've always been interested in understanding the truth of things. I've always been a
Mm,
seeker. I, came across information about relationships that really struck me and was so inspiring to me. And that just led me deeper down the path of personal development,
yeah.
honestly, and then how that translates into our relationship lives. I don't know, I wish I had a more concrete answer for that. I don't know if it's like
Yeah.
the sort of new age part of me wants to say that part of it is destiny, and then the more practical side of me is just like, well, I think it was just part of my personality, so maybe it's a
Yeah.
combination of all of it.
Yeah, that's why I relate to too, because I really dove into relationships after, and that's why I started my Instagram and podcast, and this
There you
now it's
go.
my part of my career now. So,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, it got me here, and I think for me though, like similar to what you're saying, it's like it's part of who I am. I was always obsessed ever since I was young and watched Disney movies. I was obsessed with relationships, and maybe
So
it's like
there
the
you go.
programming.
Yeah, yeah. Or just like, I don't, who knows? But
Who knows?
it's just where your passion lies. You know, every
Yeah,
child has, we have different passions that start from a young age. And I think that I was always in my own way, sort of obsessed with love and
yeah.
relationships and how to get love and all of that.
Yeah, totally. Well, I just want, yeah, I mean, I was just interested in hearing your take on that because I just find it interesting. Some people, like my dad, went the other way. He like never wants to even interact with anything that could improve his relationships or himself. And my mom went the other way and they're
Hmm.
split. And she like now goes to couples therapy. Then they have like 2 hour
Interesting.
sessions. And, yeah, like she has a great
Interesting.
marriage to my stepdad. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. So I'm fascinated with that.
It is fascinating.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you mentioned you're a truth seeker. Your book is about 9 truths. Was there a 10th truth that you had to leave out? Like, I'm always curious about what authors leave out of their books.
I know. I really thought about these 9 truths for about 4 years. I
Okay.
was really thinking about this for a long time, 3.5 years. There were like different iterations, sometimes there were
Mm,
7. There wasn't anything that I was like, okay, I'm going to get rid of this because I want it to be 9. There wasn't anything
yeah.
like that. But if I were to write the book again, I would have added a 10th one, which is that you can't change anyone but yourself.
Ooh, yeah, that
But
is
I do
a
think that's
hard
somewhat
truth.
implied. I think that's somewhat implied in the book in
Yeah.
different truths. But yeah, I may have said that. Yeah.
I feel like we as humans have a really hard time grappling with that one.
Yes, we really
Yeah.
do.
We
We like to
really, really do.
control.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it'd be so much easier if this person just was a bigger texter.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Totally.
Like, yeah. Which truth of the 9 truths do you think that people really struggle with the most?
Hmm. I think it depends on who you are, but I would say the first one and the last one. So the first one is it begins with you, and the last one you have to make peace with your parents. So the first one I think is difficult for most people, not everyone. I mean, there's a lot of people who have a kind of a growth mindset, if you will, but a lot of people will struggle with that first one because, in case you hadn't noticed, people don't really like to take responsibility, and it's a lot easier to play the victim role. And the thing is that what people misunderstand about that truth is this isn't about blaming yourself. This is the hero's story. It's the
Right.
hero's journey. I want you to become the hero of your story. And I want people to understand that they can become the hero of their story. And then that's very empowering.
Yeah, it is. Do you think that accepting that I can become the hero of my own story, it's like people are scared to actually be up to that task? When you look at yourself, it's like, okay, actually, I'm taking responsibility for my life. I'm not the victim. It's like, oh, I have to actually do something about it now.
Yeah, a lot of people it's overwhelming to them. It's exhausting to them and they
Yeah.
go into like heavy denial. Yeah, it takes courage.
Okay, so you said the hardest ones were the first one and the last one. What are the easiest ones you think people can like kind of
I
work
don't
through?
I don't think there is I don't think any of
Yeah.
them are easy. That's why they're called hard truths.
There's no easy of the hard. Yeah, fair.
I don't think they're easy at all. I think though it just depends on the person which one they're going to be like that they're going to really resonate with and
Yeah.
have to spend a little bit more time with.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I appreciate the insight. While reading it, I was thinking, like, I wonder which ones I needed to hear the most right now.
Well, which
You
I'm
know?
curious, which ones did you?
I mean, I'm married. I have done a lot of work on myself. I think the ninth one is still one I'm definitely working on. You need to make peace with your parents. And I
Yeah.
think what I've gone through the last few years kind of, I've been in therapy for a long time. And now it's so cool when therapy starts to click. It's like, oh, like I'm actually in the moment, like using all these skills that I've been like
Yeah.
trying to figure out. They're all invisible skills. You know what I mean? They're kind of,
Yes.
you can't touch them. But then when it's happening, it's like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm regulating my emotions. I'm pausing.
Yeah, yeah,
You
like it's
know,
all it's working.
yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
think now I'm at that stage, and then now I see my parents very differently, and I'm in that mode, and it's tough. It is tough.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. Very
it's also
tough.
tough to decide what kind of relationship you want as an adult with your parents. Like I just have a
Yes.
tough relationship with my dad. I know you relate to that too, and
Yeah.
He's still around, luckily. There's always a part of me that's like, I want to be close to him. There's always a part of me like, why? Why?
I understand that. I understand that
Yeah.
dilemma very well.
So one thing I love about your book is that it shows how much is in our control. And we were just talking about that. Like, you become the hero of your own story. You have to actually take that on. And I realize like how much our beliefs, how we manage our emotions, our connection to our bodies, which you talk about a lot, and who we choose to date. But if someone is feeling like really lost, where should they start? Like, because there's a lot to control, actually. What's the first
Yeah.
thing we should try to harness?
I think self-understanding is important, and I would say to understand what your needs are. And the framework that I like to use is the 6 human needs, which I did not create that framework. Tony Robbins and Chloe Mendana's did. And it's based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But everyone has a need to feel certain and safe. Everyone has a need for surprise, adventure, uncertainty. Everyone has a need to feel unique and special and significant. Everyone needs love and connection. And everyone needs to feel like they're growing, even if it's growing pains. And everyone needs to feel like they can contribute to something outside of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you were look at the framework of those needs, which needs are you meeting right now? Which needs are you valuing more than others? And can you learn how to meet your needs in empowering ways? And I think that that is really the first step. Because
Yeah.
oftentimes when people feel stuck, there's a pattern there. And the pattern is a couple of things. One is something's missing from their life and
Yeah.
they don't know what it is. But if you can use the needs as a framework, like, oh, I'm missing, I don't have enough certainty in my life, or I don't have enough fun in my life, or I don't have enough connection in my life, or I don't feel like, significant, whatever it is. I don't feel like I'm fulfilled. I'm not contributing to anything. I don't feel like I'm growing. That truly is the first step. And then when you start to like kind of peel away the onion, then you might discover that there's some sort of internal conflict happening.
I like that as the first step, just like, and I like that it's independent of your romantic relationships, romantic
Yes.
status. Like, you really, it's with you, just you yourself, just,
Mm-hmm.
block out everything else, what's going
Yeah.
on. Yeah, I relate. I'm in a phase of my life where I moved to the suburbs and I'm like, oh, I don't like see anyone other than my husband pretty much ever because I work from home. And it's
Yeah.
like, that is a very apparent issue in my life right now that I'm like, I
Yes.
need to figure this out. But it feels good because I know I can control this. This isn't
Yes.
something that's just like happening to me that I have zero agency over.
Yeah. And then you might need help figuring out how to meet that need. Like,
Yeah,
you might need advice from someone you trust on how to meet some of your needs, but just
right.
identifying like what it is really
Yeah.
important.
So first step, identify. Second step, uncover a little bit, see what's going on.
Yeah, and how to meet your needs. How can you meet your
Right.
needs? So like, you're
Yeah.
feeling a bit isolated, maybe you're feeling a little bit bored, maybe you're feeling like you need a little bit of more variety in your life because everything is just sort of like work from home, see your husband.
Yeah.
So maybe that means you have to take a trip into the city. I don't know where you are, but like,
I'm in the Bay Area. Yeah.
you're in the Bay
Like,
Area. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So,
That's the thing though. Like for me, it's like I always know what to do. It's just like I love working. I want to work so hard, and then it's just like, no, Talia, you gotta do other things. Gotta pay
gotta do
attention to
it.
other
Yeah.
needs. Yeah.
Yeah. If work's very fulfilling for you, then
Yeah.
roll with it. Whatever fulfills you.
I do. I mean, I'm rolling with this right now. I'm loving this conversation. Okay, so back to the victim mode thing, because I do hear from a lot of people who are dating right now. It's like, I can't meet anyone. No one's good out there. I tried everything. Like, what's the step out of that?
You mean with dating?
Yeah, I've tried the apps. I've gone to singles mixers and speed dating. I've asked my friends for setups. I just can't seem to meet anyone. Like, I want to just storm out of the dating pool.
Well, there's a couple options. You can either get extremely resourceful, and that might look like if you think about who you want to date,
Yeah.
and go and sign up for a class or go to do some things where those type of people are.
Yeah.
Even if it's like an archery class, I don't care. It doesn't something totally outside of the box. You could be like, I just want to meet this person. I want to be able to meet these people. And so I'm going to do things that I wouldn't necessarily do, but I know that there's going to be a bunch of these people there.
Right.
So you either just have to get a lot more resourceful or take a time out.
Yeah.
Stop putting so much focus on meeting someone and put focus on something else in your life. Shift your focus. And then maybe there'll be some energy that actually happens in that area of your life because you're not constantly fixated on it.
Right. Yeah, you got to focus your energy elsewhere. And I think that's
Yeah.
particularly tough, especially for the ladies listening who have the biological clock, who are like, oh my gosh, like I'm 35. I need to find someone quick. Like I want to have a family. That comes up a lot too. And I definitely struggle with what to say sometimes. Just like, this is one part you can't control, right? Is the
Right.
timing of certain things. And I know
No,
you had your whole journey with this too.
yeah. You can influence timing. I mean, you can, if you're just sitting on your couch and doing nothing about meeting anyone, you can influence timing and be proactive. So you can influence timing, but you can't control it, I
Right.
mean, you can influence timing by not dating someone who you're not aligned with just because you're lonely or bored.
Yeah.
You can choose not to waste your time. There's certain decisions, there's certain choices that we can make that will help. But ultimately, we can't control the timing of when we're going to meet the right person for us.
That's another hard truth to swallow, I think. Also, I always think about how just you can meet someone and think it's the right person, then it falls apart. Or, then you
Yeah.
could be back out there, or they pass away, which I've seen my grandparents go through.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and it's like you might be back out there one day, and it's like there's the stuff that's not in our control. It's tough to deal with too.
Yeah. And I think that it's a very common story. You're with someone and maybe it's not working out, but you keep sticking with it because you're like, oh my God, I don't want to get back in the dating world again. Like, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
That's a really common story.
I've heard that so many times from people in my life, like just like friends and
Yeah,
family members, or
a
just,
hundred
yeah.
percent. Totally.
So I want to shift gears here, and I want to ask you about your take on this. Like, one thing I've learned in my work in therapy is that the more secure you are in yourself, the easier dating feels. What are your thoughts on becoming your own secure base?
I think you know what you want. You know who you are, and you can't know who's right for you if you don't know who you are.
Right.
And you're not afraid to walk away from people who are just wrong for you. So you don't let things that are just wrong drag on because you feel so thirsty for love. So that's how I
Yeah.
interpret that.
Yeah, that was my experience dating when I was, out there. And my whole thing is I went on out with like over 60 people in under a year just for fun. Like I was just enjoying
I
the
love
journey.
that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think in that process, because I had the abundance mentality of like, it doesn't matter if this doesn't work out. I'm fine. And the more fine I was with myself and like, I'm cool, I'm good, it was just easier.
That's a lesson that everyone, I think, would benefit from learning. That is the right dating attitude.
Thank you. That means a
Yeah.
lot coming from you.
Yeah, that's the right dating attitude,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And look, you're married now, so there you go.
Yes, but also I was ready mentally and emotionally to be single for decades. And I still feel that way of like, if something happened, like I know I would be fine. And it's empowering coming from your experience with relationships, couples, single people. What kind of things can we do to build that kind of security in ourselves?
Well, interestingly enough, just based on what we just talked about, learning how to meet your needs, very
Yeah.
important. Very, very important. Because when we are walking around this earth not knowing how to meet our core needs, then we will be searching for things and people outside of ourselves to meet those needs for us. And we gain a stronger sense of self when we know how to meet our own needs. That does not mean that we don't need anyone, but it just means that we know how to cultivate friendships. We know how to meet our needs. That's really the most important thing. I think also what's really important is understanding what fulfills you and really exploring what fulfills you, what inspires you, what gives you a sense of like purpose, every day, whatever that is. It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
it is. I think those two things are crucial. Those are the foundation.
So finding your sense of purpose, like knowing what fulfills you, and what was the
Knowing
first
how to
one?
meet your needs.
Knowing how to meet your needs, right? I'm
Hmm.
so like sucked into what you're saying.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
I love that. It's like I can hear some of my listeners being like, well, if I can meet my own needs, why would I even want a partner then? Like, what's the point? You
I can
know?
answer that
Yeah.
directly. Because there's something that a relationship will give you that you can't 100% give yourself. It's really to be able to say, I want to be in a relationship. Because here's the thing, there's a difference. A lot of people go to a relationship to feel secure, to feel financially secure, to feel emotionally secure, to get love, all these things, right? That rarely works. That relationship rarely works when you are looking for a relationship to fulfill these basic needs that you need to be able to fulfill on your own in order to have a happy relationship. But if you have the mindset, let me backtrack. If you have the mindset of, I want to be in a relationship because I want to share my life with someone. I want to have these amazing experiences with someone. I want to give love as much as I want to receive love. I want from us being together for my life to elevate even more. So it's not about meeting your own needs is not a defense for hyper independence or hyper individuality. It is literally a defense for not seeking a relationship to fill voids.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to feel more secure in who you are, and then therefore you are feeling not so secure in who you are, learning how to meet your needs is going to give you more of that security.
Yes, I mean, I agree with everything you just said. It's hard work, but I think it is really worth it. It is so empowering. It makes life a lot easier knowing you can meet your needs and knowing you can rely on someone else, right?
Yes.
Having the interdependence. Do this kind of work of like, let me meet my own needs, let me find what fulfills me, find my purpose. The more we do that, the less we feel like we need to be chosen by another person.
I think that it's very human to want to be chosen, to want to belong. These are things that are not necessarily going to go away. But I do think that when we feel more secure and grounded in who we are, we're not going to chase someone. You know, that obsession with being chosen by someone to validate who we are, that starts to go away.
Yeah. Again, that's what makes dating easier is when you
That's what
don't, when
makes
you take
dating.
that piece out, it's so much more clear. It's like, oh, do I like this person? Do I want to be with them? Can my
Yeah,
life be elevated in a relationship with them? Those kinds of questions take the forefront.
exactly.
So I want to talk about your second truth in your book, Mind is a Battlefield, because one of my biggest challenges that listeners face is getting stuck in their heads. Like, you know this. I know
Yeah,
I see the questions you get on your stories as well.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
we're overthinking text, we're overanalyzing dates and just
Mm-hmm.
feeling powerless. So let's say like someone reads your book. They're like, okay, I'm in my body, I'm pausing, I'm giving back, which I love that advice that you give in the
Uh-huh.
book, like to give back. But they still don't know what to do. It's like, okay, I've done all the things to regulate myself and I feel calm, but like I don't know what to do with this person who's not really being responsive.
Okay, so I think we should backtrack because most
Okay.
people aren't actually doing that work.
Okay, got it.
Most people, if they're honest with themselves, are getting in their heads. It's not just about regulating your emotions. That's not what that chapter is about. That chapter is about understanding the stories that you keep telling yourself about other people. It's literally the monkey mind. They did this because of this, and we create a whole narrative
Yeah.
instead of actually communicating. And that's when couples get incredibly disconnected. And that's when people drive themselves crazy when it comes to dating. So I think it's more just about, okay, I'm creating a narrative in my head about what's going on. I'm completely divorced from what's going inside in my body. How can I connect to my body and then communicate rather than getting lost in a story about something?
Right.
The other part of that chapter, yes, is about learning how to self-soothe and get in your body because we live in a culture that encourages all our energy to be in between our ears in our brain and not our bodies. It boils down to communication, but oftentimes the communication is going to be so much better when we can say, okay, I can acknowledge that maybe I'm stuck in a story right now. So let me see if I
Mm,
can actually have a conversation with this person rather than me having an imaginary argument with them in my mind.
Yeah. And it's like, even after all this work I've done, I still do that. I have to stop
Oh, we all
myself.
do it. Yeah,
Yeah. I have to like,
that's what I'm trying to say. Like no one's
yeah.
people say, "Okay, I've done the work, I can
Yeah.
regulate
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
what?" It's like, "Really? Have you?"
Yeah.
Because it's an ongoing practice.
Yeah. I think that the sticking point for a lot of people dating, it's like, okay, I know I'm making this story in my head about why they're not texting me back. I don't like that they're not texting me back, but I still like them. Like, I still want to get to know them, but they don't really want to get to know me. So I guess I just have to walk away now. Like, it can be very
No, I think
deflating.
I think it's better
Yeah.
to communicate. Hey, this is how I'm feeling. Are you on the same page?
Don't you think it feels a little risky after a second date, a third date, though?
I think after like the first couple of dates, here's what people need to be doing is not caring so much.
Yeah.
And the only way you're not going to care so much about whether or not that person you had a great date with contacted you back is if you have a life that you really like.
100%.
Or you have a life that's really busy. You know, like I know people who are dating and they have kids and they're like, I don't have time to get wrapped up. Like I've got to like help my kid with their homework.
I tell people to have a you snooze, you lose mentality with people they're dating. It's like, you have to do your life. Don't leave time open for anyone. They
Yeah.
get in there or they don't. Like, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So after my first date with my husband, I was like, I don't think I'm going to hear from this guy again. I don't really care if I do. And it wasn't that we had a bad date or anything. It was just like, it was okay. It was fine. And
Yeah.
then, but he kept showing up and I'm like, okay, he is
Yes.
very persistent and consistent. Got it.
But people get very anxious and their egos get very involved and then they start
Yeah.
to get all worked up over someone who they barely know. And those are all signs that like something else needs your attention in your life other
Yeah.
than your dating life.
Got it. So when you're feeling wrapped up in someone's response time, you're counting the hours. I had a DM that was like, he responded 27 hours later. I'm like, we should not be counting hours.
I think that people are just like, well, then do I answer them back? How do I play this game?
Yeah.
Like, how do I
Yeah.
do this? Does it really matter? It's like we're focusing so much on this minutia. What if you were to say, I know my worth. I like this person. Let's just see, like, if maybe, like, all right, I'll double text them and see what happens. If I don't hear back from them, then I know that this is like not right. You
Yeah.
know, or I'll check in with my body and be like, you know, like, how does this feel? Okay, maybe this feels uncomfortable, but like, I don't know, did someone really commit a crime by waiting 27 hours to text me back after a first date? And it's like, okay, well, maybe they're not crazy about me. All right, well, maybe not, but I'll text them again. And if it doesn't really happen, then whatever, on my way. And
Yeah.
this is radical. You know, this is a radical way to approach dating when
I know.
when you're not used to having this kind of approach.
Well, you did talk about in the book, like communicating is risking breaking it. Like when you speak up, you are actually risking losing
Yeah, but
something.
you don't want to. But if it's one date and someone doesn't get back to you after 27 hours, and then you're like, you know, I really like, you know, response to, you know, you start over communicating, you're going to seem crazy. You're not going to seem mentally stable. Instead, you just observe. If you feel like texting them, text them. If you don't, and see what happens.
Yeah.
The moral of the story is don't put so much stock in someone who you've known, who you spent 2 hours with.
I'm with you. I have a post that's like going viral right now. It says you barely know them.
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it is helpful to remember.
But people are so worried. It's like, if I do this, are they not going to be interested in it? And look, you know, we can't deny the fact that there is some sort of, for lack of a better way to describe it, there is some sort of game in the art of seduction. You know, there is like, if you seem really thirsty or hungry, that's going to be a turnoff. If you're confident, that's going to be a turn on. You know, so people are really like, how do I navigate this? And the way that you navigate it is that you just don't care as much. You have a life.
Yeah.
You focus on your life and you just text based on how you feel. And that's it.
Yeah. I always say people have to earn their way into that life by showing up.
By showing up. Now, if you've had a few dates with someone and they're like, you always have to initiate, and they're kind of like not that invested or engaged. If you like to be pursued and you feel like they're not pursuing, then yeah, you're like, I'm done.
Later. I'm so glad you're saying this. So another thing that stuck out to me in your book, you wrote this quote, choose character over charm. And that really stuck with me. I wanted to hear from you. what does a slow burn look like to you? Because I talk a lot
Yeah.
about a slow burn on my page, and I want to hear the Jillian version of this.
I know it's a good question, and it's tough because too slow also can sometimes mean no progress. So you mentioned character over charm.
Yeah.
It's also character over looks. Look, certainly you're not going to pursue a connection with someone who you're not attracted to. Like you have to be attracted, like
Yeah.
But some people value looks so much that they get themselves into very unhealthy situations because they're not evaluating the person based on their character. And character is the most important thing. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to be attracted to everyone who has strong character, but it does mean that it has to be your priority. A slow burn to me looks like is really about not playing house with the stranger. So not being like, oh my God, we have this amazing connection. So we're going to spend all weekend together and we don't even like know each other's last names or whatever it is. And there's just all this super intensity in the beginning, which is basically immature. And look, I'm not putting anyone down. I've done that too. The slow burn is just like, hey, let's get to know each other. Let's meet each other's friends. Let's like, let's not jump into spending every single night together and planning our futures together because we're just really excited that we met each other and we're attracted to each other. So it's more about, it's not necessarily timeline specific, but more how can you process your enthusiasm so that you're not making someone who you barely know the central character of your life
Yeah.
and get to
Wow.
know them. And like I said, the way you get to know them, you got to know their friends. Like, like let's meet up with friends. Let's get to know each other. And again, it looks different for everyone. For some people, it might be, I'm not having sex until we're like, we know each other more. I mean, you have to decide what your boundaries are around that.
People struggle with this. I think when you first meet someone and they're like, I want to just get to know each other, see where it goes, that can feel very ambivalent and passive and like,
Right.
oh, this person isn't looking for a relationship. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing if you hear that from someone, like, especially women, if you're listening, like, and a guy says, want to get to know you, see where it goes. I don't think it's necessarily an immediate red flag. It could just be a slow burn in the making.
It could be. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to push back a little bit on
Yeah.
that. I think it depends on age. I think it depends on stage of life. Certainly, if I were to meet someone 40s, 50s, and they were going to say, like, I don't know, let's just see how it goes, that's a red flag to me.
You
Because
think
I
so?
think there's something to be said about being like, I'm dating to marry or I'm dating for a relationship.
Yes.
Usually, when you hear I'm not really quite sure, that is someone who isn't necessarily intentional and isn't looking
Yeah.
for a relationship. I would be a
You
little
gotta
concerned
question it.
about that. Yeah.
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 Follow-up questions are needed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Follow up questions. Exactly.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And the follow up questions would be more like, are you sort of undecided? Are you going through a breakup and you're just kind of getting your feet wet, trying to figure out what it is that you want?
Yeah. Right. There, yeah, it's like get more information before you decide if it is a red flag or deal breaker or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why does playing house backfire for so many people, you think?
I think because it's the crash and burn. You're just
Yeah.
super, super intense. You move really, really quickly. You don't really know each other. And then you form like this deep attachment, but you don't really, you're kind of still strangers to each other.
So let's just say there's a couple they're just getting to know each other, they're playing house and then they want to pump the brakes. Do you think it's possible to like come back from that? Like kind of catch it in the action and then just and pull back?
It's possible, but it's tough.
Yeah.
I think really what it's about is if you want a long-term relationship, and these are the things that we're not taught in school, and this is why I feel so passionate about teaching it. If you want a long-term relationship, you have to have similar values. You have to have these conversations about the kind of life that you want to have. And people instead, they have chemistry with someone and there's all this intense feelings, but there's no discernment. There's no stepping back to be like, okay, let's see if we are actually a match. That's really the root of it.
I agree. The slow burn allows you to have that pause. And I think
Hmm.
you talk about this too. Like you can go slow enough to process your enthusiasm. I love the way you say that.
Yeah.
And actually be like, okay, wait, does this person align with what I'm looking for, my values, what I need in a person?
But things need to be progressing too.
Right. It's
Like
so
if you're
tricky.
3 months in and if month three feels exactly like, month one, then I think
Something's
you have to,
off.
yeah, something's wrong. You have to address that.
Yeah. Okay, last question, because you talk about this. I'm just so curious. Why do you think the worst dynamics in a relationship often come with the best sex?
Well, what's interesting is that I actually think that that changes as you change and maybe as some people get older and what they're prioritizing in what they want from sex changes. If you decide or if you find out or if you discover, I should say, that what you want from sex is not just the passion, which is obvious, we want that, but what we want is like union. What we want is something transcendent. What we want is something very like emotionally intimate.
Yeah.
You kind of transition out of the some of the best sex of our lives is with the worst person of our life, with the worst
Yeah.
person in our lives. Okay. So that I wanted to say this because this is actually a very, very nuanced topic. Sometimes in abusive relationships, the sex is really great because maybe it's during sex where they're actually more equal. It's an equal playing field. Maybe the person in the relationship otherwise who feels very abused or disempowered actually feels powerful in sex. Let's put abusive relationships aside. Maybe sex is where the emotionally unavailable person is actually very available,
Hmm.
but everywhere
Right.
else they're not. Also, it could be that there is just your relationship is fueled by that intangible chemistry. And there's no other substance to the relationship other than that.
Right. It's
And
like that's when the relationship's at its best.
yeah, that's as
Yeah.
is at its best is during sex.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you're right, it is very nuanced. And I'm glad you brought that up because I think a lot of people don't actually take a moment to realize what's going on underneath that
Yes,
dynamic of like, oh, this
exactly.
is actually when I feel the safest with this person or when
Yes,
I feel the most seen by this person. I've
yes.
definitely been in that situation. And you have to recognize like actually there's way more to a relationship than just being seen and safe only when you're having sex, which is like such a small percentage of the time.
Yeah. And also exactly exactly. And sometimes, it's just luck of the draw. You're with someone who's totally bad for you and you're
Yeah.
probably bad for them, and yet they know exactly what to do with you in bed.
Yeah. But don't fall for it, guys. If you're listening, please don't fall for
Don't
this.
fall for it.
It
You
doesn't mean you're meant
know,
to be.
it doesn't mean you're meant to be, but
Yeah.
I wish that more people could just have a great weekend with this person and then just leave it at that.
Yes. Yes, for real. When I was dating, I
Yeah.
did enjoy, physical connections with people I knew were not the right person for me, but
Yes.
I'm like, I just want to. It was
Yes. As long
fun.
as you're not getting attached and connected, and then it turns,
No,
that's where it gets
I already knew
very,
they weren't the right person, which might
yeah.
sound screwed up, but like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't judge myself
But
too
I
much.
also think more people need to also have these conversations too. I
Yeah.
think that like this brings up, because we opened up a can of worms, which is
Yeah.
that where do we define integrity when it comes to dating?
Yeah.
And, at what point do we say, I know you're not right for me, but I'm really attracted to you and I would love to have this fun weekend with you. And should we be saying that? And I think that maybe we should be, right?
I agree. Look, I will say this. I'm not ignorant to this. As a woman dating men, it was very easy to get in that situation
Of
because a
course,
lot of
because they're
men
not
were
going to turn
open
you
to
down.
casual sex.
Yeah.
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 And I'm like, I'm down. And like, great, I'm down. Some people weren't and most were.
Yes.
Like you can just say that. I think for men, it's different. It's harder. I'm not
Yes.
going to ignore that.
No, we can't ignore that. We also can't ignore that for women, if you are sleeping with men, just because you're having sex with them doesn't mean that they want to be in a relationship with you.
Very true. Very true. Okay, Jillian, I think we have time for one quick listener
Yes.
question. I'm trying to decide. I have a few queued up. I'm trying to decide which one I want to do with you. Okay, I think we kind of touched on this one, so we'll go this way. I, 26 male, am struggling with a lack of communication from a woman, 30 female, who is prone to withdrawing socially when feeling overwhelmed or anxious and goes radio silent for long stretches, often weeks at a time. We've discussed this on the phone and she reassured me she's still very much still interested and she promised to keep me in the loop going forward, but has again suddenly gone silent for the last few weeks. To make matters worse, she's recently had a major surgery and illness, and I feel very unreasonable calling this out while she's going through this difficult time. That said, I can't help feel like I'm not important to her. I'm not sure how to approach the situation. What should I do?
I think that he should tell her that he cares very much about her and wants to be there for her and wants to be a support system, and that, that he's safe for her to to open up to him and to really show that he wants to be her support, he wants to be her friend, he wants to be her rock.
Mm,
And that's all he can do. If she continues to withdraw for weeks at a time, I don't think he should continue to be with her.
yeah.
You can't sustain a relationship like that. But I think it should start with him just saying, instead of him feeling all sorry about himself, I think he should just say, I want to be there for you. I want to support you. I care about you. I know this is hard. Let me be there for you and see what happens.
Yeah, that's great advice. And also, yes, like I'm glad you said like if this radio silence for weeks continues, the relationship
Yeah,
should
and
not
also,
continue.
right, and we don't know what the radio silence means. We don't really know what
Yeah.
he means by that. But either way, I think that he just has to say, he has to really make her feel, because maybe she's doing that because she doesn't feel like she wants to burden him. I mean, there could be
Mm.
so many different reasons why she's doing that, and especially since she's going through some sort of health crisis. And I think that I think he should say those things to her first and see what happens.
Amazing. Well, is there any final thought you want to share with people who are dating? We've gone through a lot of your thoughts, which I
I
appreciate, but is
know.
there anything we didn't touch on that you're like, daters need to know this?
No, I think we touched on a bunch, but I just want to say, like, even though like you'll come across people who may seem immature or you might get discouraged by the dating scene, just you keep showing up as your best self and don't mirror or match other people's energy. Just keep bringing your best self forward and it'll work out. It'll eventually work out. But if you're exhausted, time to put your focus somewhere else and just give that a little time out.
You guys heard it from Jillian. All right. Jillian, where can we find more of you?
My website, jillianturecki.com, my podcast, Jillian on Love, all social channels, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, you name it,
Yeah.
and you can
I'll
find
link
me.
your podcast and your Instagram in the show notes. And I love your podcast. I mean, everything you do
Thank
is
you.
amazing. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.